Welcome to the Livfiit Listens podcast, a safe space of growth, personal development, and overall wellness with your host, Olivia Catania. Diving into the realms of all things health, conscious living, mental expansion, and much more, this podcast is designed to help you evolve into your best self and live fit. Let's get into the show. All right, people, welcome to episode 5 of Livfiit Listens. Happy you're here. Welcome back. Thank you for checking back in and giving it a listen. I'm feeling kind of amped up. I'm just going to be honest. This episode came to me this morning and I just was like, yes, I really want to talk about that. But I wasn't really sure like what I was going to really it's like a very big concept to me, but I was like, I don't even really know where to start. Like, I don't even know kind of how to write up this episode, write up the show. And I just was kind of sitting down and outlining some stuff. I'm literally out of breath because I'm just fired up. And now I'm just like, you know what? I'm just trying to say I kind of outlined this episode, but I'm also kind of just going out on a rim right now because it's coming to me. I'm kind of just channeling it and we're just going to go on a roll today. But before we get into this episode, which I know is going to be a good one, I think you guys are really going to love it. I wanted to talk about my gratitude, of course. And the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about what I was grateful for today was the Livfiit community as a whole, which I know, gushy, like shout out to you guys. But in all honesty, like I'm serious. You guys know I've said this a few times now, like I've been doing Livfiit, trying to pursue Livfiit for many years now. And I finally have built this amazing community of people. And I feel like I'm finally like heard and seen. And I just feel so privileged to have people on the other side to reciprocate the conversation that I've been trying to have for so long and conversate with and hear back from you guys, get feedback, bounce ideas back, and just like have this interaction with you guys that I've always wanted to have with a community like this for so long. So like I said, I feel so seen, so heard, and so loved by you guys, and I'm really thankful and appreciative of it. And it honestly just makes things more fun for like everyone. And the reason why I'm saying this, and this actually is of relevance to the episode, is because I love like doing those little question box things and having you guys actually like send stuff in and I can read what you guys say. Like it's just absolutely so fun for me and I feel so connected to you guys. So in regards to the show, this concept that I'm going to be talking about actually dawned on me. I vividly I'm not even kidding. I vividly remember this. I don't remember what I was thinking about, but I remember the scenario. I was about like 15. I was taking a shower in my mom's old house, the house we were in before the one we're in now, back in New York, I should say. And I just vividly remember like when the realization like had dawned on me. So I was showering and I arrived at like some sort of conclusion in my head. I was thinking about something and then I looked at it like in another way. Again, I don't know how I looked at it, but like literally it made me, I was like, oh my gosh. Like it's all perspective. And those 3 words came into my mind just like that. And that's just like when I realized for the first time that like you can look at the same exact situation and arrive at 2 completely different outcomes simply based on your perspective in the situation, the seat that you're sitting in the situation. So I'm not even kidding. I was about 15 when that happened. And then straight up, that's the quote. If there's anyone in my high school, which that would be interesting if you guys are listening to me. But if I went to high school with you and you're freaking listening to me right now, I literally put my senior quote in the yearbook. I wrote in there, it's all perspective. Like it straight up was my senior quote. It's something that's like always carried with me. I've also realized I can't keep prefacing every episode because I feel like every single one I'm like, this lesson is so close to my heart. I'm like, this lesson was the first lesson I've ever learned. Like it was such a big thing for me to know. Like I feel like I want to say it every time. Like I want to say it in this episode too, because this also was a super transformative realization as well. Like, and it's something I carry with me daily. Like this is almost more foundational to me than the acceptance episode. It's just another very important thing that I feel like has completely shifted, no pun intended, the way I look at things, my perspective on things. And I carry it with me all the time. And I feel like it's allowed me to be so much more open-minded and just see things from different viewpoints and feel less trapped. What really made me want to talk about this actually today, tying back into my gratitude, was I put up like a question box because actually the day this goes up, the day the video on YouTube is going to go live. So I filmed a video about either like people would send in this or that questions or assumptions about me or like overrated or underrated questions. There were some responses in there, which I, of course, like gonna give them the benefit of the doubt because like, why would I not? But like some of them I very well was like, like interesting. And it's not the first time I've gotten feedback kind of like this or comments like this, right? So like this was in regards to more so like assumptions about me. And there was multiple that said like you aren't actually that happy, or you aren't as happy as you portray yourself to be, or you seem happy and bubbly, but you're actually just really a cold-hearted bitch. Like straight up, those were things that were sent in. I truly don't think that it's like in an aggressive way, but who am I to say? But I'm also like, ignorance is bliss. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. It still just baffles me because like I said, it's not the first time I get those comments that people question. I don't like, people don't want to accept for some reason that people can be genuinely just happy for like no real reason. Or for a reason that's backed by longevity and sustainability. Like, I mean, I say that in terms of like, they don't understand. They're kind of bothered when it's like, how does that person have just like, I'm not trying to come at anybody. I just feel like I feel like this is an honest observation that I've made. Like, I feel like they're like, how is this person just have this like joy just because? Like, people are like, oh, she got a new car, like that's why she's happy right now. I think there's a very big difference between happiness and joy. Side note, I think joy comes from, it's backed by gratitude, true fulfillment, and it's like the foundational root of an optimistic spirit, I guess, if you will, of a light spirit. Happiness, I feel like, is way more surface level. I think it comes as a result of something else, where I feel like joy, like I feel like happiness is in effect, where I feel like joy isn't dependent on an external thing. I feel like joy is almost a cause of other actions, where I feel like happiness is a result of things, whether that's a person come up to you and said something, gave you a compliment, you got a new car, you bought that purse, you bought that new shirt, you just got that job. I think it's very, very different. I think joy comes from within, and I think happiness comes from outside of. And like another comment on the Instagram poll box thing was like, your life is easy. And again, I don't know in what way they meant that, right? But of course, pain is pain, struggle is struggle. I'm in no position to belittle someone else's pain, someone else's struggle, or someone else's hardship. And my answer to that assumption actually was that, yes, I do feel like my life is easy right now. I do. I'm doing what I love. I'm in an area where I wanted to be. And I want to kind of talk about this without, because it's not really about trying to respond to this assumption. It's about like the overall, takeaway from it that I'm trying to get at. But I'm just saying, like, my life hasn't always been easy. There's been plenty of hardships. I still am struggling with things. I will struggle with things as I continue to move forward. But I worked and created my life to get to a point where it felt easy. And I said this in my YouTube video as well. I think that in our society, we are programmed to think that life is hard. We're programmed to think that hardships are everywhere. We're programmed to think that, you can only be happy when you get something to tell you that you can be happy now. We're told that like life is a struggle. Like it's like you're running through mud. That's just like a programmed belief, I feel like, in the human collective that I just don't agree with. I think also with hustle culture and productivity, especially in the US, we think that life is supposed to be hard. You're supposed to be working hard. You're supposed to be working long hours in order to be successful. When it's like, I just don't agree. I think the fact that I truly feel like my day-to-day is easy, which again, I feel like I'm in a slower part of my life. I'm not going to be sitting in this position forever. I know I'm going to be getting busier, etc., as I continue to expand and do more things and pursue more projects. But I will say, like, without trying to be defending myself, although I do feel the work I do is easy, I work hard in terms of I'm constantly working. I work very long hours. It takes me a long time to do the work that I'm doing. But the fact that work feels easy to me means that I know that I'm doing what I feel I'm in alignment with my sole purpose, what I'm meant to be doing. Because what I'm doing could feel very, very hard to someone else who doesn't know how to be on camera, who doesn't really like speaking in front of people, etc. It would feel like a very big challenge to them. So I think something that I realized, because especially growing up in my family, this is kind of off topic, but here we are. The way my atmosphere I was raised in was very much like, what are you doing? How many hours are you putting in? What are you working towards? How are you going to be successful? How are you going to elevate who you are as a human? Almost in a competitive atmosphere, quite honestly. And when I realized, because honestly, coincidentally, I thought about this and I had a conversation about this, about having things feeling easy weeks before this just came in, right, in that question box. And it really hit me. I was like, I feel like my life is easy. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm happy every day. And there's a part of me that's like, but why does that not feel right? Isn't that classic human problem solving, pick the path of least resistance? Doesn't it seem right to be happy? Doesn't that feel like what we should be striving for, etc.? And yet I felt all of those things about my day-to-day, and for some reason I felt like, is this right or is this wrong? Because we're constantly taught that like we're supposed to be working hard, we're supposed to be grinding, it's supposed to be hard, it's supposed to be tough, it's supposed to hurt. And I'm kind of like, why? Like, why? Why does it need to? And I really became very comfortable because I knew that was my ego feeling like I needed to show up and say that like, oh, I'm working so hard. This is so hard for me. I'm really challenging myself every day. Like, I don't really enjoy what I'm doing, but I'm working hard, so it must be right. No, I realize I personally don't agree with that. You can totally have a different opinion. But the fact that it hit me that my day-to-day feels easy to me, I was like, damn, Liv, like that's how you know what you're doing is right for you. You're focusing on your strengths and you're in your flow state, where I feel like if you're doing truly what you authentically feel called to do, you should feel like you're in that flow state. I feel like the goal should be to be living in that flow state where you're just completely in attunement and alignment with your spirit, with your soul's calling, with your purpose, with your desires, with what you feel called to be doing. The thing is, in terms of perspective, circling back to, I guess, actually the main intention of the episode, the thing is that there are so many people who are in my same exact situation, or even better, a better situation on paper, if you will, who are still absolutely miserable, ungrateful, and are filled with a lack mentality. And that's just the truth. And if we want to get really specific, there's people in my same family. That's how close our situations are. And we have completely different mental spaces without infringing on their privacy. But we're literally could not be closer to the same situation when I say we're in the same family, the same upbringing, etc. And we're in completely two different headspaces, two completely different perspectives. And that's exactly what I'm saying, where my life is easy. Yes, because I made it this way and I took the time to pursue things that I wanted to do after putting in the work that I could get to the point to be doing this full time. But also it's easy because I'm saying it's easy, because I'm grateful for what I have, because I wake up happy every day, because look at the positives that are in my life. It's easy because I think it's easy in my mind. You know what I mean? Like there's people who are in my same exact situation who are dragging their feet every day, who say this sucks. They're thinking it's hard. They're thinking about all the things that they still haven't done, the things they still haven't accomplished, all the things they still don't have, thinking about the things that everyone else did that they didn't do. And that's just like their poor perspective on a situation that's just keeping them imprisoned in their mind and constantly feeling like they're in a lacking state and that they haven't done enough. So I'm just trying to say, like, it doesn't matter what your upbringing situation is. It doesn't matter what your current state is. Yes, it does impact your happiness. I'm not going to be completely ignorant and naive to that standpoint. Like, I've been there. I was at college at Penn State. I absolutely hated it. I was not as happy because just straight up the fact of the matter was I didn't like what my living circumstances. I didn't like being there and I wasn't able to pursue the things that I liked doing. So obviously, yes, I wasn't as happy as I am now for tangible reasons. But at the end of the day, I still had that choice in my mind of how I wanted to look at the situation in order for me to choose the outcome and the takeaway of the experience that I was experiencing. And another comment that I got, this wasn't in this question box, but I actually got, and like a mini tiff, this was via a DM months ago now, I think this past winter, with someone who was really bothered. I don't even know how it started, but she just took out her whatever things that she was dealing with. I genuinely don't even know how it started, but she literally kind of came at me for being so positive and happy, and she just didn't like it. And she said, it's not all butterflies and rainbows. And I vividly remember that she said that. And in my head, I said, why not? Why freaking not? Can it be butterflies and rainbows? Now, I'm not saying, I'm well aware there is pain, there's sadness, there's hardship and struggle in this life. I will never tell you otherwise. And I think as we open up on this podcast, you're going to hear more about, like, I didn't come up in a perfect family by any means. I wasn't raised in a perfect life. Was I still privileged and have blessings and love in my life? Absolutely, what I'm thankful for. But at the same time, I could be focused on that hardship of growing up, my family toxic patterns, the divorce in my family, the codependency, the narcissism, the not so healthy verbal communication between people, the alcoholism. Like, there's lots of things that are in my past that I could focus on and think about my childhood and say, damn, I've had a really hard life. This sucks, etc. Or I could think about all the good blessings that I've had become of it, that were stronger, that there's still love in my life. I've had blessings when I was growing up. Like, with those hardships, the fact that they exist, which again, I'm not and will ever deny that there's hardship and struggle in life. I'm never going to say that they're not going to be there. But what I'm saying is, because of that, it's even more important to know how to show up optimistically to be able to work through those challenging times. Challenging times doesn't mean that we need to suffer mentally. And I think that's what people truly miss. They think like challenging times means that you need to be sulking in your head as well. Is it part of that? Abso-freaking-lutely. I think that's part of human nature. It's okay to process the emotions that you're feeling when you're in a downtime. They're completely hold its place as well. But wallowing in pity and in that victim mentality and struggle doesn't ever help us come up with a solution to move forward or get through that hardship. It just makes us marinate in the struggle. So although like our external circumstances may be tough, that doesn't mean that we need to give up our internal peace and hope and optimism in the process. And so because of that, that's why I'm saying, like, even when you are going through a hard time, perspective is still everything, because perspective is what's going to help you find that silver lining, that glimmer of hope, the sliver of goodness in your situation that's going to help you pull yourself out of that and help you move through the challenging times and move forward and progress like in your life journey. And like I said, like, I'm well aware it's not all like literally in our reality, it's not all butterflies and rainbows, but at the same time I'm saying, why can't we think that in our head is my thing. Again, like I said it a little bit previously, I think ignorance is bliss. I think we make up our reality in our minds. Our reality is whatever we believe to be true in our minds. And so my question is, why can't we? Why can't our intention be to show up as optimistically as we can every single day? Why can't we be stupidly, innocently happy just because we have a pulse and breath in our lungs? Like, I just want to know why. Why can't that be our intention to show up? Because obviously we're not going to, like, we know we're not going to be naive. Like, there's going to be hardships and challenge throughout our day, throughout our life, throughout our month, throughout whatever. But why can't we at least show up? Because I feel like if you're starting and showing up with just a pessimistic mindset, how is that going to help you? Like, when you show up with that already, you're already starting at the bottom of the ladder with how much you have to go. I want to be starting at the freaking top of the ladder as high as I can, the best as I can, set myself up for the most success with the most buffers to be able to get through this hardship as possible. So I'm going to be showing up as optimistically as I can, believing that life is good, believing that life is easy, believing that there's resources to help me, believing that I can do it with hope and with faith and with trust. And here's how I look at life, quite literally. I genuinely see life as the yin and the yang symbol. There's just as much good as there's just as much bad. It's seamlessly what makes up the whole. It's what completes that circle. There's a sliver of bad in the good, and there's a sliver of good in the bad. And that's literally exactly what I see life to be, like, genuinely in terms of straight up energy. That's how I see like the picture of life, how it all seamlessly fits like that. And so with that, like I'm saying, I'm acknowledging that there's hardship in life, but I'm also acknowledging that there's good things, that there are butterflies and rainbows in this life. And when I'm saying in terms of it's all up to perspective, like, it's all up to the way that you choose to look at life and in the situation. Like, if there's just as much good as there's just as much bad, to me, that completely cancels out and the score is 0 on the scoreboard. So I might as well focus on the good and put as much energy into the good as I can. And you know the quote, you give life what you give energy to. If I'm constantly pouring myself and focusing my attention on the goodness in life, putting my attention into that, that's what's going to grow. That's what I'm going to be surrounded by. That's what's going to seem like the bigger picture to me. That's going to seem like a more saturated portion of life when I focus on the good things, when I see the good in situations, when I practice gratitude, when I tell myself affirmations to be happy, all this sort of stuff. It's just how your reality shifts, because that's what you start to focus on mentally. That's where you're pouring your energy. Like, you know, those days where you're feeling like one thing goes wrong, you start to think about it, another thing goes wrong, you start to think about it. And now you're just thinking about the bad things that have happened in your during your day, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, out of the woodworks, just 15 different bad things happened to you that day, all because you were stuck up mentally on one thing that happened in the beginning of the day. That's because that's where your mentality shifted. That's where your perspective shifted to focusing on was the negativity, the negative energy, the bad things that were happening in your life. That's what you ended up seeing. And the thing is that people, it's like kind of yes and no, but in terms of more like tangible things, without making this seem so woo-woo like out there, but like literally it's like the same thing. If you were to put yourself in a freaking huge parking lot and you right before you were talking about Toyota 4Runners and you go into the parking garage, I guarantee you're going to notice 4Runners, right? And let's say there was 4 of them there. Okay, erase the situation. Let's say before that you were told about Porsche Cayennes. You go into the same thing. Now all you're seeing are Porsche Cayennes. You're seeing 4 of them as well. Now there's the same amount, and there's just as many 4Runners as there are Porsche Cayennes in the parking garage. But the difference is you were focusing on one or the other because that's what your mind was gained awareness to. And that's the thing in life, like the good, that's like the biggest thing. I feel like when I say focus on the good or whatever, like, and it's going to grow, people are thinking it's like coming out of the woodworks. I'm not saying that's not true, but like in more so like an intangible way to explain it, it's all there is what I'm saying. The good's there, the bad's there in life. It's all there. No one touched it. No one changed it. It's you deciding what lens you're looking at life through. That's all it is. It's being intentional with the lens that you're choosing to look at life through. And that's exactly what it is. The first time you went in there, you went through the lens with looking for 4Runners. Guess what? That's what you ended up seeing because that's what your awareness was at. That's what was at the front of your mind. If you go in there with the intention to see Porsche Cayennes, you're going to see Porsche Cayennes everywhere. And you're like, wow, there are so many Porsche Cayennes in that parking garage. When really there was just as many Porsche Cayennes as there were with any other car. You just didn't notice because you weren't looking for them. You didn't have any intention to see them. You didn't have any awareness for them. I hope that makes sense. I feel like that was the best example that I could say of when I try to explain there's just as much good in life as there's just as much bad. It's just what you're choosing to focus on. It's the same thing if you're in the car driving with someone. You all pass the same stuff, all the same landmarks, and someone says, oh, did you notice that really weird statue? You're like, oh, no, I didn't see it. It still was there. It exists. It was there. Since you didn't see it, you didn't recognize it, you weren't aware, you didn't have your head up, it didn't seem like it existed in your reality because you just let it pass by, you didn't see it, but it totally existed in your friend's reality and the person who was driving. So that's just kind of what I'm saying. It's like, it's all your perspective. It's all the way that you choose to look at things, what you choose to look for, what you choose to find. And when you're just more intentional with that, you can choose to live in which side of the yin yang symbol you want to live with in life. And for me, that's kind of what I'm saying when people are like, you aren't actually that happy, like, like your life is just easy compared to others. I'm just choosing to live life through a lens of gratitude, love, and abundance. Like that's really all it is. And of course, like if I really, really didn't like my external state, it would be harder, I guess, for me to accumulate this internal stance. But I will say it starts with cultivating that internal stance in order to feel that regardless of what the external state is. If I didn't get to this point where I didn't put the work in to practice gratitude, see the good things that are in my life, choose to look at life through a lens of optimism, I could be living this life right now and have a completely different outlook on it. And that's just the truth. I could feel like I still didn't accomplish enough, that I thought I would be bigger, that I would be doing other things, XYZ, that people are doing more than me. I could very well be feeling that way, sitting in this exact same seat, but it's because of the inner work that I do, the perspective that I choose to see life through, the lens I choose to look through. I feel this inner peace and joy and fulfillment by sitting in this seat. And I think people get so caught up on the minutia as well. I feel like I say minutia in these episodes. I don't even know if it's a real world. Real world. My family's Italian and I swear we make up words. It might be an Italian thing. I don't know. But minutia is like the small details, minor details. Like it's so small. It's like, it's what's the word? Trivial. That's the word I'm looking for. Just something so small, like it's like a piece of dust. We get so caught up in the minutia that doesn't even matter. They don't even matter. And I just am like, it consumes us. And I really never want to come across my podcast like I'm talking down to you guys. I really don't want that to be the way that I'm coming across. I'm even speaking to myself because I'm still human. So I still do all this stuff as well. Honestly, I should be listening to these back and taking my own advice. But just like all of like the anxiety that we get if someone's like looking at us weirdly in the gym. Like, and that something like that would consume our whole day. Like, someone would be like, that chick kind of looked like, gave me a weird glance, like, as she was scanning the gym. Like, it's like, okay. Like, it's just like when you actually take a second. I always say, zoom out your perspective. See the bigger picture. Like, we're literally living in a miracle right now. We have limited time on this earth and in this experience. So many bigger things that we're supposed to be doing, pursuing, so much bigger emotions and love we're supposed to be giving, so many things that matter. And we're like this narrow-minded that we think like, oh, awkward glance as she's scanning the gym holds anything of relevance. Like, it's just, sometimes it's crazy like how much we overthink things and look things from a certain perspective that ends up like crippling us and holds us back for things that like don't even matter. And we get so caught up in it, and it consumes like so much of our time, our energy, and our space. And it's just like, for what? Like, what does it actually matter? Like, this is something that especially with anxiety, this is something that helped me, because I still am definitely an indecisive person, but I feel like I've at least stripped the anxiety portion away of indecision, if you will. Is this like, I feel like I would always get kind of like caught on a decision, like, should I do this or this? And it'd be like a minutia thing, like, should I get sushi or no? Like, something like that literally could not affect me longer than like the hour that like I was hungry, you know what I mean? But yet I'd almost be like paralyzed by like what decision to make, what's the right decision. And it hit me where I was like, listen, if it's not injuring or hurting anyone I know, my family members are still healthy, I'm still healthy, no one's dying, and I'm not going to die from this decision, it doesn't matter. Like, that's literally to the point that I got. Like, with any decision now, I'm like, listen, I'm still going to be safe at the end of this decision. My family and loved ones are still going to be safe at the end of this decision. I'm not harming anyone in me making this decision. I'm going to be alive at the end of this decision, and my loved ones are going to be alive at the end of this decision. Therefore, it's really not that big of a deal. It's not going to make or break anything. It's only going to last a little bit. Like, even if it's a decision of like which job to take, okay, that might play out over the course of a year, but like, it's going to be okay. Regardless, like, you're going to get through it. You're going to keep going through the process, and like, the time's going to pass. It's all going to be fine. It's not that big of a deal. So of course, pulling through with some examples, because how could I not? This honestly just happened recently, like a few days ago. I was feeling kind of stressed with the work that I had to do. My dad is also in town, and I don't know how to explain him. I love him to death. He's amazing and he rocks. But he's just a lot to be around. He's kind of needy. He's not like he'll just sit in the corner and read a newspaper. Like, he's like, what are you doing? Like, he's in your space. I just was feeling stressed. Like, I had a really long day, like, making content, doing emails, all that sort of stuff, getting the workout in, etc. And I just still had a lot of editing to do when I still was coming home. And I was starting to get stressed, and I was starting to get a little bit tight, because I was like, it's kind of not like when my dad's here, it's like kind of more to deal with. Like, he wants to make dinner. It's just like kind of a bigger ordeal, a bigger project when he's around. Whereas like if he's not, I can just go up in my room, make something quick for dinner, and just like grind on the work that I have to do. Literally, this was after a workout when I was driving home from the gym, and I was kind of my feathers were a little ruffled. I was a little bit tight, and I started thinking to myself, first of all, back to, episode number 3 of acceptance. I was like, this is the situation that you're in. It's not going to change. This is the work that you have to do. It's not going to go away. Your dad's not going to go away. And like, it is what it is. You have to accept the situation. This is what you're going to be walking into when you get into the door at home. Then I kind of went a step further, and I was like, okay, I need to change my perspective, the way that I'm looking at the situation, because I know that there's still so much good in this scenario that I'm just completely robbing myself of, and just completely looking at the negativity and the challenging parts of the same situation. Again, the yin yang sign. I was focusing on the dark side of the yin yang symbol. Like, then it just all of a sudden hit me, and I was like, Liv, you're just honestly being stupid right now. Like, you just have blinders on. A year ago, you would kill, quite literally, to be this busy with Livfiit, to have this many people wanting to get content from you, wanting to watch your content, wanting to consume your content, to have these brand deals that you're oh so stressed about. Like, you guys don't understand, that was all that I wanted. This is still all that I wanted to be doing. But yet at the same time, this is exactly what I mean when it doesn't matter the situation it's all of your perspective. Last year, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I would have been as happy as a clam doing all those things that I had to do that day. Whereas now today, for whatever reason, because it had kind of become my normal, I decided to look at it in a stressed lens and started to look at it of all the work that I had to do instead of all of the work I had the privilege of being able to do. Does that make sense? So it hit me. I was like, Liv, what are you even saying? Like, I am so thankful that I have this work to do, that I am this busy, and that the work that I have to do is with Livfiit, my absolute dream job, that I'm doing something that I'm able to genuinely be helping people in the process. I'm not doing something just to pass time, to fill in a form and do busy work. Like, you're doing work that matters, that's helping people, that's impacting people positively, that's changing their lives. Like, that's a privilege that you get to do that. And then I thought about my dad. I was like, and this was going to already send me over the edge, but like, the fact that I had a dad to go home to, and that always blows my mind when I tell myself that. I was like, I feel like the luckiest freaking person in the world that I can pull into that when I get home, and that I know I'm going to walk in the door and my dad's going to say, love her. And as soon as I thought about that, I was like, what in the hell are you complaining about? What are you irritated about? What are you tense about? And like, I just want you guys to think about that. If you have something in your life right now, because that just hit me again saying that. If this wasn't my everyday, if I didn't have you guys, if I wasn't able to express myself on this platform, if I didn't have my dad be there supporting me, if I didn't have the simple joy of just being able to like cook dinner with my dad, if that was taken away. So I just really invite you guys to zoom out your perspective and know that like, it's going to be okay tomorrow. You're always going to get through the shit. You're always going to get through the hardship. Like, it's going to be okay. Enjoy today. Enjoy what you have now. Look for the good. Recognize the good. See the beauty. Recognize the beauty. Be thankful for the beauty that's in your life, for the good things that are in your life, because I'm telling you, they're there. Just like I said with the parking garage example, it is all there. It's up for us for what we choose to go look for. It's whatever you want to write down on your little scavenger hunt sheet. If you put freaking hardship, anger, and frustration, you're going to freaking find that. If you put down joy, happiness, and laughter, you'll really definitely freaking find that too. So it's all up to you and your intention of how you want to show up, of what lens that you choose to be looking at life through. And this is another great quote that I actually saw on Instagram. And it says, we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. And that was probably one of the best quotes I've ever heard of in my life. This makes me think of a book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I cannot recommend that book enough to you guys. That's kind of where I first learned about how every mind is a world. That's what he says in the book. It's essentially where I just realized that all of the things that we know to be quote unquote the truth in our reality isn't. It's just our own world, our own thing that we made up in our head that we think is the truth. But really it's just a reflection of our own subconscious beliefs, opinions, etc. And the image that went with this quote, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are, was 2 people looking at the globe. One person had kind of like this blue light in their headspace, and the other person had like red fire in their headspace. And they was both projected onto a picture of the earth. There was a cartoon, obviously. And the person who had the fire in his head had a red beam that was projecting onto the earth. And from his point of view, it just was flames. It looked like the earth was on fire, completely in shambles. And from the person who had the blue light in his head, his point of view, there was a light just shining on earth and butterflies like flying on the top of the globe. Also, here we are, butterflies. This is what I'm saying. I didn't even realize that. Butterflies, my connection with butterflies, Livfiit listens. It's on the podcast. This is just how it works around here, people. Synchronicities on synchronicities. The uni is here. But what I'm trying to say is, everything that we see, everything that we think we know is just a reflection of us. It's a reflection of our viewpoints, what we're focusing on, where our attention is, where our energy is. And just like that image, like if you think that life is hard and that's your perspective and you're just seeing things from a dark perspective, that's what you're gonna freaking see. And it's absolutely no secret. I'll tell you that right now. So don't act surprised when that's what you see. But when you switch yourself and you choose to look at life in an optimistic place, from a place of hope and trust and beauty and abundance and gratitude, life is going to seem easy for you. It's going to seem happy. It's going to seem full of joy, and it's going to seem full of butterflies and rainbows. And just like that image, those people were in the 2 exact same situations, but it all just came down to the way they were looking at the situation that they were in. And it yielded each party 2 completely opposite, opposing, different experiences. And there's another image that's coming to my head I've also seen floating around on Instagram of a bus. And there's one person sitting on one side of the bus and another person sitting on the other side of the bus. They're kind of driving around like a mountainside. So like if you look on one side, you see just this wall of rock. You can't see anything. There's no view. And the person who's looking at that side is like, his eyes are all dreary. Like he's definitely down. And he seems like he's like sulking. Where the person on the other side of the train or the bus or whatever, same situation. They're both just on the train ride. He decided to look the other way, sit on the other side of the bus, and he's seeing this beautiful overlooking viewpoint of just all this beauty. There's tons of views. I'm sure some of you have seen this. I feel like this image has been floating around for years. And he's like there taking pictures with his camera and he's all happy. He's like, look at all these views, where the other guy is all sulky and looking at the rock wall and is like, this sucks. I can't see anything. Like, this is so miserable and dreary. Where they're in the same situation. They're on the same freaking bus. And the only difference is that one person decided to look at it from a different perspective, from a different point of view, and they had a completely different takeaway. So I invite you guys just to be a little bit more intentional with the way that you're approaching your life, with the way you're viewing your life, and make the conscious choice and effort to see the beauty in things if that's what you want to experience. Because like I said, it doesn't matter what your outside external circumstance is if your internal circumstance is absolute shit. It just is true. You will constantly be chasing more, whether it's more happiness, more wealth, more success, if you don't have that foundational perspective shift to begin with within. And I can promise you guys that. So the affirmation that I have for you guys for this week is, I see life through a lens of gratitude and recognize the bigger picture. I see life through a lens of gratitude and recognize the bigger picture. I love you guys so much. I feel like I was very in the zone on that episode, kind of just like channeling that, but I really hope you guys are able to take away something from this episode. I hope it inspired you more than anything. Put the power back in your hands to choose the way you want to see life, to choose your life experience by changing your perspective, because that's the most foundational place where it all starts there. I'm sending you guys so much love. Thank you again for listening, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.